Lunar New Year, sometimes called Chinese New Year, Chunjie, Korean New Year, Solel, Tibetan New Year, Losar, Mongolian New Year, Chakansar, and Vietnamese New Year, Tết. Today, we are going to look at how it's celebrated, the similarities between the culture's practices, the calendar, and zodiac animal differences. Just when you thought you're done with all the New Year celebration on January the 1st, here comes a bunch more of them. The Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Tibetan, and Mongolians, they all celebrate the Lunar New Year based on the Chinese lunar calendar, or more accurately, the lunisolar calendar, because it accounts for both the moon phase and time of the solar year. But for the sake of familiarity, I will just call it the Lunar New Year and lunar calendar. In the year 2017 of the Gregorian calendar, that's the calendar we are using internationally today, the Chinese Lunar New Year falls on January the 28th, and we will enter the year of the fire rooster. Days before the New Year, the Chinese will thoroughly clean their homes. By doing so, they believe that they are sweeping away bad luck. They will also be visiting their families or return home to celebrate together. Due to the massive number of Chinese in mainland China, this causes the greatest human migration in the world. On New Year's Day itself, they will be decked out in new or red clothing. Married members of the family will give the children or other younger members of the family little red packets containing money called hongbao. There are just too many traditional practices to mention, but 3 of them are the most important ones: spring cleaning, visiting family, and money packets for children. Almost all cultures that celebrate Lunar New Year practice those 3, except for Tibet. It doesn't seem to have the tradition of giving children little money packets. Perhaps it's due to the strong Buddhist influence on their culture that puts less emphasis on material desires. And look at what we have here on the list. Why? It's Japan. The Japanese actually celebrate their New Year Day on January the 1st, but they share similar practices to other cultures that celebrate Lunar New Year. That's because they were strongly influenced by the Chinese tradition and also used the lunar calendar until 1872. That's when they abandoned it the next year for the Gregorian calendar, and they also moved the New Year celebration to January the 1st. This raises an important point. Do all these cultures celebrate Lunar New Year at the same time? The answer is no. Due to the complexity of the lunar calendar, the Chinese New Year falls on a different day every year, but generally on the new moon between January the 1st and February the 20th. Let me pull up a chart to show you the different days the Lunar New Year fall for all these different cultures. You see, there are some discrepancies. The New Year's Day can be slightly or wildly different for some of these cultures. Tibet's New Year can be a day off compared to China, Korea, and Vietnam, but different ethnicities from the region may celebrate theirs at a different date. Mongolia's New Year can often be off for a whole month at times. But even Korea and Vietnam, which practically use the same version of the calendar, sometimes have different New Year's Day due to the time zone and the occurrence of the new moon. In the year 2030, Vietnam will have its New Year Day on February the 2nd, and China will have it on the 3rd. While the dates can be different, all these cultures keep the tradition of assigning zodiac animals to each year. 2017 is the year of the fire rooster. To be precise, it's yin fire rooster for Japan, China, Korea, and Vietnam, and female fire rooster for Tibet and Mongolia. You know, I find these little differences really interesting. It's quite intuitive in this case, since yin represents the feminine and yang the masculine, so it's easy to understand. Now, let's look at the 12 zodiac animals used to represent the 12-year cycle. If we expand the chart, it looks like this. The lunar calendar uses a cycle of 12 zodiac animals assigned to each year. The first animal that's part of the cycle is rat, followed by ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and ending with pig. This cycle repeats itself in this order every 12 years, but if you consider the elements tied to the animals, it becomes a 60-year cycle. Unlike classical Greek elements, the Chinese elements consist of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. They are further divided into yin and yang, with 2017 being the year of yin fire rooster. 2018 will be yang earth dog, 2019 yin earth pig, and 2020 yang metal rat. Hold on, some Japanese may say, when you say pig, do you mean wild boar? Some Japanese may ask this question because in Japan, instead of pig, they have wild boar. I couldn't find an official explanation, but I have a theory why this happened. First, you need to know that Japan's writing system was heavily influenced by the Chinese, and up to today, they still use Chinese characters in their writing system, which the Japanese call kanji. In Chinese, there are a few characters for pig. Among them are zhu and tun. In Japan, zhu, or as the Japanese would say it, cho or inoshishi, can either mean pig or wild boar. Meanwhile, tun, or as they would say it, ton or buta, is used mainly for pig. So the pig became a wild boar in Japan, most likely due to their linguistic development. This glitch in cultural transmission is quite fascinating, but in Vietnam's case, it's a bit of a doozy. Instead of rabbit, they have cat on their zodiac roster. Well, how do you explain that? Pig, wild boar, they're pretty close. But rabbit to cat? How did that happen? Well, nobody really knows, but there are some attempts at explaining it. In one explanation I can find, which sounds entirely plausible, is that in ancient China, the word for rabbit was Mao. Though the characters are different, the word for cat is Mao, which sounds very close. So the rabbit became a cat because of a mispronounced word. Despite not using Chinese-inspired lunar calendar, other cultures also adopted the zodiac animals with local twists. Among them is Kazakhstan, which also has the 12 animals, but with leopard replacing the tiger. Replacing an animal with a similar local creature is quite easy to accept, but they also replaced the dragon with snail. I tried looking for the reason why, but I just can't find it anywhere. Well, let's just leave this as a mystery for now. Before I sign off, the takeaway here is that the Lunar New Year is not celebrated only by the Chinese. Koreans, Vietnamese, Tibetans, and Mongolians also celebrate their New Year around the same time. And despite sharing much similarities, the differences make them all unique. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on my obscure areas of interest. Also, if there's anyone watching this video who knows why Kazakhstan has a snail instead of a dragon on their zodiac, please post in the comment and tell us why. CJ signing out.